Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for what I know will be an important and an inspirational conversation. Today, we're thrilled to be hosting a panel on three different yet highly connected topics of gender lens investing, fintech, and ESG at the inaugural Women Entrepreneurs Forum in DC. We're featuring inspiring expert women leaders in Latin America who are using their power to empower real change in the region. But before we get started, let me introduce myself. I'm Rasha Qamheyeh. I'm the moderator for our panel this morning, and I'm the founder of a boutique incubator accelerator called Event Horizon, based in Bellevue, Washington State. We work with tech entrepreneurs whose startups could potentially impact the lives of millions of people through innovative business models that yield financial returns with a focus on social, economic, and climate impact. I have a bachelor's in physics and an MBA with concentration in finance. Today, we're joined by a powerhouse of two women leaders in fintech, policymaking, and financial and technical sustainability, Marcela Ponce and Daniela Espinosa. Marcela leads the climate finance program at IFC's Financial Institutions Group in Latin America and the Caribbean. She coordinates the Sustainable Banking and Finance Network. In her professional career, both during and prior to her time at IFC in Latin America and Europe, she has supported financial institutions in the development of sustainable businesses. She also supported governments in the creation of regulatory framework that promotes sustainability and worked on planning zero carbon real estate projects, also facilitated public-private dialogue to develop and expand knowledge and technical capacities in sustainable development. Marcela has an MBA and an MSc in sustainability leadership from the University of Cambridge and a diploma in climate change, economics, and governance from London School of Economics. Also with us, Daniela, who is passionate about numbers, fintech, and startups, has an MBA with concentration in finance. She began her career as a banker. She was country risk manager at Citibank Ecuador, and later the CFO of two very important economic groups in the country. In 2016, she joined the world of startups by being the founding COO of Kushki, where she remained until the company reached $1 billion valuation. She's currently an angel investor and advisor to startups in Latin America. Daniela was named one of the 100 innovation leaders in Colombia and one of the 500 most influential people in Latin America by Bloomberg Linea. She serves on the board of companies in different industry verticals, particularly insurance and fintech. It truly is a pleasure to have them both with us today. Thank you both for joining us. So with the 30 minutes allotted time for our panel, we'd be doing our best to take advantage of having two influential women leaders with us today. So our aim is to showcase the progress that has been made, learn from them on the challenges that remain, and the potential for collaboration and innovation. We hope to inspire our audience to take action and make a difference in their organizations, businesses, and communities in the areas of gender lens investing, fintech, and ESG. So to start off with our first question and the topic of gender lens investing, we're going to share some statistics here. So according to a report by Various Wealth Partners, one of the oldest impact wealth management firms in the United States, the asset under management of gender lens investment strategies have grown from 100 million in 2014 to over 4.8 billion as of 2020. And another report by Criterion Institute found that gender lens investing has the potential to unlock significant financial and social impact, with estimates suggesting that addressing the gender disparities could alone add 12 trillion to the global GDP by 2025. So these statistics suggest that gender lens investing is growing in popularity and has the potential to generate significant social and financial impact globally. Our first question is to Daniela, and based on your observation, on your experience with investing, how have you seen that popularity and significance of gender lens investing manifest on the ground in Latin America?
Thanks. First, thanks for the Women's Entrepreneur Forum for inviting me. For me, it's a pleasure to join this panel with Marcela and Rasha. And hi, everybody. Hope you're having a great time. So, I started in the startup ecosystem in 2016, where there were like few women working as founders, as VCs or angel investors. So, there are many things happening in the region. For me, it's very inspiring to see a lot of many women founding companies, more VCs with women as general partners. I think that starting in 2020 in LATAM, there has been a lot of new VCs that are investing in the region. And also some of these VCs are being founded by women, which is really exciting. And some VCs also, they have the strategy to fund only companies that are funded by women. So there are a lot of things and different things happening. And also, it's really interesting to see more women as advisors or board members. So according to LAFCA, which is the Latin American Venture Capital Association, they have been measuring this KPI since 2019 in LATAM. So it's really interesting that in 2021 and the first half of 2022, 97 women who led startups raised almost 6 billion. So that's a really important number for LATAM. Obviously, in this number, we have Nubank, we have Cristina Junqueira, which is one of the most important women founding startups in Latin America. But also, there's a lot of other companies led or co-led by women, which are part of this number. Many examples can be Nubank, Kavak, Javi, Story, Loft, also Kushki. So there's also other initiatives in the region, like, for example, We Exchange. I'm part of that network. In this exchange, what do we aim? So what's important is we want to support young entrepreneurs or new entrepreneurs and startups founded by women. So we provide advising for those women. We're always supporting them in which lawyers do you need to reach, how to prepare a founding round, what would be your strategy, which VCs are available in LATAM, which VCs have different theses, and which VCs will be suitable for your startup. So it's really amazing how we are able to support other women in this network, even in like very informal ways, like in chats, but also in informal ways like conferences, like sometimes hearing their pitches, understand what they can do better, or we can help them connect. So it's really interesting, like this flywheel that is working for women in the region. And one of the things that's really amazing, it's seeing like more women as angel investors. So it's not typical, or it has been a challenge to show or to educate women on how to invest. So I think there's a challenge, and we see more women investing. We see more women as angel investors. We see more women that have founded companies supporting as angel investors in new companies that are founded by women. So there's a lot of things going on. So it's really very, very exciting for everybody, Rasha.
Fantastic. This is great. Thank you for sharing your perspective on this issue. I think it's particularly interesting that you mentioned sort of how investors are sort of coming in and funding women founders or women leaders in corporations as key investment decision factor, because if anything, this can help ensure that a company is more responsive to the needs and concerns of a diverse range of stakeholders, employees, customers, and shareholders. So it's very refreshing to see that also happening, as you had mentioned, in Latin America. So another rapidly evolving area in investment industry is fintech. And fintech solutions can generate vast amounts of data on user behavior, financial transactions, business performance, which can be harnessed to identify patterns, trends, and opportunities for improvement. A question here to Marcela. Marcela, as you spearhead the climate finance for the region to help bring the green transformation, how available are key data metrics to you? How do you foresee areas of collaboration with fintech to enable the data standardization and measure of impact necessary to increase green investments?
Thank you, Rasha, and thank you for the invitation. And nice to be here with Daniela as well. Well, data is one of the key barriers or challenges, at least for climate and for ESG in general. So the lack of data is one of the areas where we need to improve availability, but also analysis and solutions, right? So absolutely, there is a great area of collaboration to start building all these data across regions and sectors to start measuring, and not only for the solutions but also for the impact, which is also important. In terms of climate, at least we as IFC and the World Bank Group are quite committed in terms of percentage of our investments to have a co-benefit, a climate co-benefit, and also in the sense of committing that our clients are Paris aligned based on the multilateral development bank's methodology. And one of the things that we need to do is precisely to have that data in terms of where the climate risks are, where are the opportunities, how much is that opportunity, and what's the impact of what we are doing in the different areas. Would it be rural or urban areas, or would it be in the financial sector or in the real sector, right? So absolutely, there are many areas where we can collaborate to start building that data. But if you allow me, when we talk about climate and coming back to that gender lens of the panel, when you see the figures in terms of climate, women are very vulnerable to climate change. They are vulnerable in many ways. If you look at disasters, for example, 70% of the people that are more in danger or that have a more impact are women. And that is based on different things, because they take care of children and elderly, and they are hard to move to one side to the other when the disaster comes, because they can't make decisions rapidly, and they need someone else to tell them what to do, and many other areas. But that's on the disaster side. But then on the day-to-day life, water. When we have water scarcity in different regions or countries or places, are the women the ones that go for water for their families or for their communities, and that can take them in average 8 hours a day to get water for their communities or families. Or if you look at food, no productivity in general terms, women are the ones that produce 60% of the food in many countries, but still they are owners only of 2% of the land globally. So there are a number of challenges that are connected specifically to climate change that impact women more than men. And when you look at how we are dealing with climate change globally, you
Mhm.
also have to have the figures of, for example, countries having only 30% or less, sorry, of women in decision-making positions around climate change when they are
Mhm.
the most vulnerable. Or even if you look at the global initiatives that we have around climate change that are not country-based but global initiatives, we are under the same percentage. 30% of women are represented there. So I think that there is a need not only to find collaboration in terms of data, which is, I think it's very important, to have metrics and to be able to provide solutions to many of the challenges that we have ahead of us in terms of climate, but also to have that consciousness about the role of women in terms of decision making around climate, but also in terms of the impact that climate change has on them. So I think that that's a reflection that it's worth having between not only us, but between many other um, companies and institutions that are having this gender lens around women.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I remember reading one of your interviews online, and where you have mentioned that sustainability being the $1 trillion climate or social investment opportunity that cannot be missed. You also spoke of how this is an opportunity for everybody, stakeholders, including banking professionals, regulators, the academic world, among others, to come together and do something to provide sort of a framework for data standardization and taxonomy for green banking. And I wanted to sort of maybe hear from you if you could see potentially this serving as a model for a framework that would provide capital for women, if it were to be adopted specifically towards gender lens investing.
Absolutely. Saying that a couple of things of what you have said. In terms of opportunities, depending on the source that you use, we can find trillions, more trillions or less trillions of dollars of opportunities. It's huge. The opportunity is huge in terms of climate. And then on the other hand, when you look at the risks, and at the World Economic Forum, the recent one, the top 10 risks, more than half of them are related to climate. But more interestingly, not only those directly linked to climate, but the other ones, for example, involuntary migration. It's very much linked to climate. So we are seeing massive migrations based on climate change, drafts or flooding or whatever. So even though only five are directly linked to climate, the other ones are indirectly linked to climate as well. So we are talking about climate change being one of the most urgent risks and the most important ones in terms of risks globally. And yet there is an opportunity that we need to tap on, right? We really need to work on those opportunities that will make us grow economically, but on the other hand, will make us more resilient. So
Mhm.
it's a double materiality, positive materiality on investing in climate. On the other hand, yes, we are working on taxonomies, and we have been working on taxonomies. IFC is naturally a standard setter, and we have been working on different taxonomies for the world. I mean, not for a specific country, but for example, we defined years ago the environmental and social performance standards that were then part of the Equator Principles, for example, inspired by the ENS performance standards of IFC. Then we last year we launched two guidelines, very important guidelines. One on blue finance, and the other one on biodiversity finance. So we are naturally a standard setter for the market, but more recently we have been working on creating those standards for the different countries that are in need of facilitating the mobilization of capital towards climate change, for example, or environmental matters. So we have been working on green taxonomies. Last year, we supported the government of Colombia to have the first green taxonomy in the region, which is aligned with the European Union, which is very important as well, so that we guarantee in a way the interoperability between countries on what's green, what's a green economic activity or an asset. But yesterday, and I'm very proud of that, we as IFC and the World Bank Group, we have been working under a program in Mexico called the 30 by 30 Zero program, which basically aims at increasing the share of green portfolio in the banks to 30% by 2030 and having zero exposure to to coal. And under that program, we work with the government, with the capital markets, with the banks, on a knowledge program that is cross-cutting for the country. And yesterday, the Ministry of Finance launched the first sustainable taxonomy in the region, which has the environmental objective of climate change adaptation and mitigation on the one hand, but also looks specifically to gender under a gender index. So we will start seeing more and more of these of how to standardize the way that capital is mobilized towards women and how to support through very specific definitions the way women have a key and fundamental role in our economy, and not only as Daniela was saying before in terms of startups, but also in the MSMEs and also in the decision making of big corporates, right? So I think
Mhm.
that's a huge milestone for the region and for us as IFC and the World Bank on having this first standard defined yesterday.
Mhm. Thank you. Fintech mobile payments can play a role in being a safe and secure conduit of data transfer, say between business owners, farmers, financial institutions, that will ultimately create a framework for data standardization. An example that comes to mind based on my experience, say, government monetary incentives for reducing carbon emissions that can be communicated through fintech mobile apps to designated overviewing financial entities who, in exchange, issue an incentive or tax credit. Now, the question here is to Daniela. Based on just this example that I mentioned, is the fintech system infrastructure in Latin America ready to help in offering an efficient and secure data channel to help feed metrics on social, economic, and climate impact? And what could help enhance its current performance?
Super, thanks, Rasha. So I think there's still a great opportunity for fintech in LATAM. We are still on only an early stage.
Mhm,
There's some data. In 2017, there were only 700 fintech companies in LATAM. In 2021, we closed the year with more than 2,500 fintechs. So there's still a very big opportunity because 60% of total transactions in LATAM, in some countries it's greater, in others it's fewer. 60% of transactions are done in cash in 2023. So there's a lot of big opportunities. And while we were talking about trillions,
mhm,
there's $1.2 trillion that are missing in SMEs financing in LATAM.
mhm,
So for me, it's really interesting the opportunity. We talk a lot about fintech, but we are still only on the early stage. And there's also another big opportunity. Now it's really cheap, or it's been cheaper to start a fintech company. Why? Because we have internet, because we can work from our houses, because we don't need like really big offices, we don't need fancy offices for the banks. So we have to take a big of opportunity that fintechs can be done through here. So the mobile phone, this is
mhm,
a way to connect with people. There's a big opportunity because in LATAM, 82% of total population has internet. It's larger than China and India, and
mhm,
more than 60% people have mobile internet. So it's really easy, like to open an account through the cell phone, like just scan all the information, send it to the bank immediately. So there's a lot of opportunity because we are really close to the final user, to the consumer. And worldwide, there's 1.3 billion women which are underbanked. Why? Because sometimes it's really difficult to reach them. They can be in cities that are really far away from main cities. So it was really hard for banks to get to the final user. But while we have the internet or the mobile phone, we're one connection away from all these people. So for me, it's really important for LATAM to work in the infrastructure. Many companies and many fintechs are working in the infrastructure. We need to have the pipelines for payments. We need to have like more specific like technology things like all the APIs available for banks. So we can have open banking in the region, like through a single connection. We can provide new services for the population. We can provide credit scores so fintechs can or will be able to lend more money. So I think that one of the main important things is that we need to create like the basic infrastructure so we can provide on the layer on the upper layer all the different services that we can do, like
Mhm.
new forms of credit, payments for electricity. For example, in Latam, sometimes you have to pay your bill of electricity and it's $3, but you need to pay $3 for all the transportation that people need to use only to go to the agent or the network to pay. So it's really important all the impact, like the social impact, the climate impact that we have if people do not have to transport from one place to the other. So it's like a holistic impact that we will have in the region, um, in remittances, in payments, in credits.
Mhm.
And one thing that I was reading is that there's like a big margin that banks do have in LATAM. So we are able to use that in fintech so we can provide also more services and complement it with the bank. Um,
Mhm.
I think also we need to create a more mature fintech ecosystem. We need like people do have a lot of experience also collaborating with this fintech in things that are like more specialized, like market risk. How do you manage like your position in treasury long term and short term? So there's a lot of aspects that because I was a banker, I know them, but that's why I do like to advise a lot of companies now so we can create a more mature and a more bigger ecosystem in Latam.
Fantastic. This is great. Now back to Marcela and quickly just sort of following up on what Daniela was just sharing and sort of opening open banking and making, say, bank-to-back transactions be instant. Um, so in your opinion, how do you see regulators responding to what Daniela was just proposing? Is there a role that the World Bank can potentially play in making this available?
Absolutely, Rasha. The World Bank specifically has many experts that would be able to support governments in this area. And I think that is the trend that we are seeing globally, but also in the region. Uh, but if you allow me, based on Daniela's comments, I think it's very important because uh, so far what we have been doing in terms of climate is basically work with corporates or large companies. And I think that there is a very important synergy here in how we reach SMEs, MSMEs, and women and men in general to have this climate impact. In that minute, where when we have that reach to rural areas, to MSMEs, with this climate angle incorporated, I think that we are making a difference. We will make a difference as long as we think about not only one operation, but supply chains, for example, making supply chains sustainable. But on the other hand, how do we reach to MSMEs to make them greener and to make their not only greener for an impact on climate change, but also to make them sustainable, resilient to climate change, and survive. So I think that's something that I take away from this conversation, and I think it's something that we should definitely have further conversations.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Spotlighting our panel themselves, accomplished women leaders in the business world. And as we sort of conclude, unfortunately, we only have 30 minutes, our discussion on gender lens investing in fintech. I would like to ask our panelists about their personal experiences in breaking through the obstacles and making an impact in their career. Specifically, What obstacles did you face while developing your career, and how did you overcome them to become the successful leader you are today? Of course, with this, we're hoping to inspire our audience and inform our collective efforts to promote gender equality and inclusion in the business world.
Well, Rasha, I would say passion. You need to work on what you're passionate on. Um, you need to work on something that uh, helps others. At
Mhm.
least for me, that was crucial. Finding those areas where I think I can help others. It's something that make you want to do better every day despite the barriers. And I think that in general terms, we need to believe in ourselves and help each other. We are a powerful force in the economy of our countries and regions, and in terms of technical knowledge and inspiration for others, and we care for the planet. And I think that if we look after each other, we will definitely do better and bigger.
Wonderful. Daniela, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, super. So for me, I was always a woman in a men's world,
Mhm.
banker and fintech. So there has been a lot of challenges. I think I've learned from all of them, and my major force has always been to keep myself as a woman. Many women tend to behave as men because they think that they will get more things by behaving according to the environment. But I think that we men and women complement each other. So it's a situation in which one plus one is not two, it's three, because we are able to see the world through different lenses. So for me, it's really important for both men and women to understand and respect each other, and understand that if we work together, we can do better things. My final fact, which is like I really like a lot, is like 80% of all the things that are sold in the world are bought by women. So let's incorporate them to boards, to companies, to startups, wherever. So thank you, Rasha. Thank you, Marcela.
Thank you so very much. Unfortunately, our time has come to an end. And as we conclude our conversation, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to our esteemed panelists for their invaluable insights and perspectives on today's topics. Your expertise and experience have definitely helped broaden my understanding, I'm sure the understanding of our audience today, of the issues and the opportunities surrounding gender lens investing and fintech. I also would like to thank you all for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed our panel and wish you a fantastic rest of your day.